everyone, and welcome to the Business Growth and Entrepreneur Podcast. I am Bill, the company's expert, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about why do bad managers terminate good employees? And this is entirely based on a comment that was sent in by one of my awesome viewers/listeners. This is from Frosty3579. Now, Frosty3579 is a longtime contributor. I know he said several things that I responded to over the last couple of years. And this is what Frosty says. I have been in many jobs where the leadership was terrible, pushing out the most dedicated and talented people. Then, when everyone on the team has been there less than 5 years, the same leadership wonders why quality, productivity, and retention are so bad. People are not machines. They are not interchangeable parts. It is so important to realize the value of someone or someone that has experience with your organization. People will go above and beyond expectations if they are treated well. On the other end of the spectrum, employees will be like teenagers in high school when they don't feel respected. Bare minimum effort, little to no regard for authority, and spend most of the day waiting for the bell to ring. So that was sent in by Frosty3579. Now let's get into this because this is a really hot topic. This is something that happens pretty much on a daily basis in many, many organizations. And in like my personal gut feeling is that this is very, very widespread. There are a lot of managers out there. There are a lot of bad managers out there. People that, let's put it this way, people that have not learned how to manage people, among other things like money and projects and operations. They don't understand business. And this issue comes right down to the people management element. Okay? Now, the big reason for this, I would venture a guess, is because managers don't understand how to recognize a good employee when they see one, okay? Now, if you're a worker and you're complaining about bad managers you've had, this is pretty easy to talk about, and a lot of people will agree with this. However, if you've been a manager and you're hearing this, you know that this is a lot tougher of a problem than it sounds, because the sort of flip side of this is that if you have an employee that says no to you, okay, in some way, shape, or form, you say, I need this done by tomorrow, and, you know, they say, sorry, sir or madam, this is going to take 2 days to do it right. And as the manager, as the boss, you're kind of wondering, well, okay, now, is this a bad employee that is lazy and takes too long to do work? Or is this a good employee that has a legitimate concern, you know, and they're being honest with me that it's going to take some time and they want to do a really good job. They are personally invested in doing a good job. And so that's the reason why they're telling me no, because that's the tougher answer, right? It's so easy to just say yes, you know, regardless of what the situation is, regardless of what your intentions are. It's so easy to say yes. And just say, yes, sir, and then, you know, have it not happen sometimes, and then beg forgiveness afterwards, right? But a lot of times, as experienced managers know, you will have a good worker, okay, a good employee, and that employee may not be a people pleaser, and the reason why they say no in some way, shape, or form is because they are passionate about their job. They take pride in the work that they do. They want to do as good a job as possible. And, you know, this kind of thing. So when you're the boss, it's not as easy and clear cut to know what type of person you're dealing with here. And many people get this wrong. There are a lot of people out there that assume that if they hear no from an employee, that must be a bad employee. And when I read this comment here by Frosty3579, that's kind of the first thing that leapt to mind for me. It's that if you hear no, you assume the employee is bad. And as a result, okay, what this ends up with, if this is the way you treat all people that you interact with, the eventual result is that anyone who says no to you, even when the answer is no, is going to disappear. Okay, they will eventually fade away. They will either leave the organization or they will be shouted down and never want to speak up again, and this sort of thing. And the reality is that sometimes the right answer is no. But you don't know it because you have workers to do the work for you, right? And they're the ones that would know it more than you. Like, for example, a lot of times a manager will ask a variation of the question, I would like to do this. Is it possible? Right? Now, you will hear yes from a lot of people. You will hear yes from good employees and bad employees. And you will hear no from good employees and bad employees. But if every time you hear a no, you assume that the employee is bad, you're going to end up with people that are essentially yes men. They will never give you an honest answer. They will never say no to you when the answer is no. They will always say yes when they know that the answer is no. And that's the beginning of the end. That's the beginning of what failure looks like. So this is the real problem. And I'm trying to put this problem in perspective. So what's the solution here? Well, the solution would be, first of all, if a manager themselves had been promoted from the role of the employee, okay? They know the employee's job, and they would know if the answer is yes or the answer is no. So if the employee comes back and says the answer is no, the manager can ask the employee to justify that. And if the employee says valid things that the manager, upon hearing it, knows if it's valid, they'll be able to verify it. Okay? But that's not usually the case. Usually, the employee does not have the same skills as the manager. Okay? And even if the manager once did the role of the employee many, many years ago, it doesn't mean that they, A, remember it very well, and B, that employee role is unchanged, after like many years. So it can lead managers to think that they know what the job of the employee is when they don't. So anyway, the bottom line is that if you don't know yourself, how do you evaluate the person? Okay. Now, a component here is that one of the things that experienced managers who are good experienced managers know is that there's a certain amount of trust you have to have in your employees. Okay. If you ask an employee yes or no, and the employee says no, okay, it's not going to be ready. It's going to take more work than we expected. It's going to require us to go over budget on something, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. You have to have a certain amount of trust in the employee. Okay. If you don't, then you will never take no for an answer. You will assume all your employees are bad employees when they come back to you with a no. And they will never be able to disagree with you, even when you are wrong, which, let's face it, we all are from time to time. Okay? So, something that experienced managers know, and managers who have gone to business school generally know, is when you are managing people, you have to be able to trust them to a degree, or else it doesn't work. And you have this situation that Frosty3579 sent in. Okay? Unfortunately, a lot of people who are managers don't realize this. It's a rookie mistake that first-time managers make. It's also something that bad managers do because they have a belief that you shouldn't trust your employees. And that springs from like corporate culture, bad corporate culture, and things like this. If you work at a place where none of the managers trust their employees, and the unspoken belief is that all the workers are lazy, they will do the minimum possible to avoid getting fired. If that's the belief that runs through management, whether it's true or not, you might be tempted to not trust any of your employees. Even the good ones, okay? You're not trusting any of them. And that also leads to this bad situation. So rule number one, the bottom line is that if you're going to be a manager, you have to have some level of trust in your employees. And sometimes this can be hard to do, especially for new employees, it's hard to trust them and take their word for things when they're new and you don't really know them yet. But you have to be able to do that, or else you will never have a chance of having a proper working relationship with them. Okay? Now, trust also has to be earned, okay? But you have to start off with a basic level of trust for any employee you hire, okay? Or else you will encounter this situation that Frosty is talking about. Now, as an executive and as a middle manager and as a frontline manager, I've had this proven to me again and again and again. That's just the reality of it. And people who are going to be managers in those positions, they have to have the discipline to realize this. And even when the pressure's on, you still have to trust your employees, okay? And not come down on them too hard and not challenge them or accuse them of being lazy or bad workers when they give you a no when you think the answer should be yes, okay? It's just that simple. If you give them a chance and they say no and you accept it and you proceed accordingly, but then it turns out that the answer really was yes, then you can address that and you address it appropriately, okay? But in the very beginning, you have to be able to trust them. So that's kind of the most important thing that I could say in a nutshell. Hopefully that makes sense. There's a lot more to this, and I love these management type issues. Thank you very much to Frosty3579 for sending those in. Frosty3579 is also a member of my main YouTube channel, The Company's Expert. And for that reason, I tend to take questions from my members very seriously and try to give them a individual answer. So thanks again. Thanks to everybody listening. You guys are awesome. And I hope you will join me for another episode of the Business Growth and Entrepreneur Podcast. Take care.